How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Sander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. We're in a new time slot, but we got a little bit late anyway because, I had to get me some extra sleep in. I looked at my calendar. I was like, oh, dip, I got nothing going on for 12 hours. I said, yeah, I'm about to crash out. So I appreciate you guys coming to the show tonight. I know we got some unorthodox times coming up for the next couple of days, but that's all right. We're gonna find ourselves a balance and get ourselves moving forward in a linear fashion. As I've said before, when things aren't working out the way you want it to work out, you always got to try something new. And then after you find you something that works for you, then you want to stick to that and keep moving in a positive fashion. We're trying to work our way around the internet scenario, and it looks like it's kind of holding up, but we don't know until we go through it. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure that you join the membership. Special shout out to Reese from yesterday, Reese Martinez, Light Blue 9. It looks like we have Max Opposer. Special shout out to you guys. Also, if you guys are interested in jumping into the topic, we have the link in the comments section where you can click the link, approve the mic, approve the camera. It brings you to the show real time. So anything that you want to say, you can say that. We want you to be over the age of 18. We bring you up onto the podcast. But the rest of you that are not over the age of 18 that decides to jump in and listen to the information that we have, because we have the ability to provide you guys with some knowledge that you guys can really learn from. By all means, hang out, comment in the comment section, but make sure that your comments and responses are appropriately. Special shout outs and other such we can do as long as they're appropriate. But beyond that, remember that we are live 7 nights a week, and now it looks like we're going to be keep teeing things off. We're going to start things off. Probably we're going to marinate it around 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 6 Pacific, something to that effect. We're going to be keying things off going forward. But we started today a little bit late because, I had to get me a good night's sleep in before I started the podcast. Then we got to do a lot of rearranging because I got to get the rest of the week set up. And then I also have to get things changed over for the Twitch platform so that you guys know exactly where we are and what we're doing. So today we're going to be talking about really how higher valued women benefit and massively improve the success of their men when they're investing in their men. And one of the women that we're using in this particular example is Michelle Obama, and how she had shaped Barack Obama's journey to the White House. So I wanted you guys to follow me as I kind of give you guys the outlook on a man's success through a supportive woman, so that when I start telling you guys some of the things that you guys need to listen to about how you got to really back your man up, because instead of finding a man that is a finished product, if you find a man with potential and make him into the finished product, you're going to probably benefit a lot more from that than what you would from finding a man and making him the finished product. So when we look at Michelle Obama, her support was instrumental in shaping Barack's journey into politics. So in many ways, her influence helped pave the way for his rise to power. And it's a fascinating story that reveals the strength of their partnership, but it also reveals the strength of women, where the old saying that men have been told for generations by their mothers is behind every strong man is a strong woman. So, when you have a positive and influential woman that is supporting your agenda, you are able to reach the stars, so to speak. Barack Obama's faced this uphill battle early in his political career, and many voters were skeptical about his chances of winning and his lack of experience in national politics, which made him an unknown entity. To make matters worse, he struggled to connect with voters on a personal level, and his public image was still in its formative stages. So nobody really knew who he was or what he was capable of. And he needed a strong foundation to build his campaign on. And that's where his wife, Michelle, comes in. Michelle's background and values aligned perfectly with Barack's message, and her advocacy work demonstrated her commitment to social justice and equality, which means that this man found a woman that had the same interests as him or was willing to go in the same direction as him. And she was able to utilize her ability to partner with him in backing his positions. And they were able to move in the same direction towards success. And it wasn't just his success, it was their unified success. Her ability to inspire and motivate people was undeniable. And Barack knew that she would be a vital asset to his campaign. Notice the woman's value is based off of how much she is beneficial to the man that she is with. Your self worth is how much you value yourself, but your value to your society is how much your society can benefit from you. So let's look at this on both sides of the fence. A man's value is only based on how much a woman can benefit from the man. So it's not just saying, oh, misogynistic and sexist. No, no, no. It works on both sides of the fence, uniformly speaking. But what a woman is looking for, which is cash and security, she's going to be looking for that from a man. So a man is defined by his wealth, and cooperation, compassion, and partnership is what a man is looking for. So a woman's going to be defined by that, which also means that a woman's wealth does not define her the same way a man's character doesn't define him. It is what it, but a woman's character does define her, and a man's lack of resources definitely defines him. So carrying on, Barack was not the one who recognized Michelle's potential. His political advisors were eager to harness her energy and charisma to boost his political image. So somebody went up to either Barack or Barack's wife and said, look, this is going to work if we use her. And he talked with his wife, and she was like, yeah, I'll support you. And that's kind of how that went down. So one of the biggest challenges Barack faced was convincing voters that he was relatable and authentic. Michelle's down-to-earth personality and candid nature helped humanize Barack, making him more approachable and likable to voters. Her ability to connect with people from all walks of life also helped broaden Barack's appeal, attracting voters who might have otherwise been skeptical about his candidacy. Barack's campaign team cleverly used Michelle's popularity, and they used this definitely to their advantage by showcasing her as the embodiment of American values, hard work, dedication, and family, which is easy to do because the woman carries herself with class and sophistication everywhere she goes. She is never dropping it like it's hot. She's never shaking her tail feather. You never see her inappropriately dressed. You never see her in a scantily clad outfit. You very rarely see her in a form-fitting dress. It's just not the thing. Like, I don't know what Camila was thinking when she had the women twerking in a campaign rally. That set women back to the 40s. I was like, wow. We would wow. It's just the mentality of some people. But let's stay focused now. Michelle's background in advocacy work and public speaking made her a natural fit for a campaign trail. Notice, before I keep going, I want you to understand that this woman has skills in public speaking. When has she ever spoken in front of Barack in a press conference about Barack? Never. Notice that even some of the most powerful women in the country know when it is not the right time to speak up, to just let him do it, whisper in his ear what's important, let him speak on it, or in situations where her getting up on stage might tarnish his ability to seem confident. She could whisper something into one of the CIA agents' ear, and then they will talk to the man with the earpiece that he's got. He'll listen to what they have to say. Notice Barack takes a lot of pauses in his speech. He doesn't just ramble on and stumble over his words. He speaks a little bit, takes a different break here and there, and then speaks some more. And when he changes the direction of his speech, odds are somebody's talking into his earpiece and letting them know, hey, go left from this particular topic, which his wife could be speaking into his ear and letting him know, don't say that, say this. Behind the scenes of a political debate, well, outside of Donald Trump's political debates, but behind the scenes of a political debate, there's scripts written, there's like teletrons and stuff like that behind the cameras. There's somebody basically pitching to you the positives and negatives of what you're saying as you're saying it. And anytime somebody wants you to go in a different direction, somebody's like either whispering or screaming into your ear, something like that. So you got to understand the fact that she was able to behind the scenes tell him what he needed to know. I got to tell you that is, we've got Batista from Brazil. Good job from Brazil. Oh, before I go back into what we were talking about with Michelle, I just want to point out, Batista, we actually did a whole discussion about how to make yourself successful in Brazil. We were talking about all of the wealth and investment opportunities that were there for foreign and domestics. So you should probably take a look at that, because I think we did it 2 or 3 days ago. Tuesday, I think we talked about, no, Saturday we talked about Brazil. Last week Saturday we talked about Brazil right after we talked about Romania. Because Tuesday of this week I think we talked about Dubai. So big ups for you guys that are showing up from Brazil. Another person that's here from Brazil, Omni81, fresh out of Brazil. Special shout out to Omni81. Red Void, who's out of Romania. So special shout out to you guys out there in Romania. If you're here from another country, make sure you throw your country down. I can give you guys a rep. Make sure that you like and subscribe as well. And if you got the ability, throw a little something to the podcast. You got the ability to throw down some donations, special likes, special comments, special emojis. Like special shout out to our buddy Reese Martinez for giving us some love yesterday. We really appreciate you guys, because we got a lot of stuff that we come down with, and it helps with the podcast. Clearly, YouTube's going to take half of it, but the fact of the matter is that I actually am able to take care of the podcast with that and give you guys better internet service, better content, because I got to do more digging, do more research, and some of the research isn't free. So just think about that as you go along with the topics, because if you like the topics, if you like the information that we provide to you, you showing us some love, that'll kind of help us out. Real quick before I get back into the topic, since we did have Brazil give a shout out, let's go ahead and give another shout out to Russia, Vietnam, United Kingdom, India, Germany, Australia, South Africa, Mexico, Canada, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Just so that I could throw it out there to some of y'all that's been showing us loyalty for the past 14 months that we've been doing the podcast. So real quick, just wanted to say thank you guys for showing us love, and keep doing what you're doing. So back to the grind. Michelle was able to help Barack with this seamless transition from advocating for social justice to promoting Barack's message. And when she made this particular change, this often drawed parallel lines between her life experiences and the struggles faced by everyday Americans, and having no conflict of interest against the agendas of the American people actually allows you to win a universal vote from most of the people. Her passions and convictions inspire countless people, and her ability to articulate complex policy issues in simple terms made her a compelling figure on the campaign trail, because you got to understand some of the stuff that people are talking about is so complex and so detailed, the average individual doesn't know what they're talking about. But once you break it down as to how does that affect me, how does that affect you, how does that affect us, then we're like, oh yeah, it's serious stuff. So Michelle Obama's background, values, and political persona created a strong foundation for Barack's campaign, and her advocacy worked, and the commitment to social justice resonated deeply with the voters, and her ability to inspire and motivate people was undeniable. We've always said that the president was run by the president's wife more often than not, especially when Bill Clinton was in office. So having a woman that has so much skill, passion, and dedication to the betterment of the American people made Barack a stronger fit for the country, not just because of who he was, but because of who he knew and who he was affiliated with. Because behind him was a woman of justice. That says a lot. How many presidents have anything of justice backing them up? Take Trump, for example. Michelle's influence helped shape Barack's public image, making him more relatable and likable to the voters. And one key moment during the campaign where Michelle's influence became particularly evident was during a 2018 Democratic National Convention, where Michelle's keynote speaker stole the show, captivating audience with her heartfelt words and infectious enthusiasm. Her speech was a masterclass in politics, showcasing her ability to connect with people on a deeper level and inspiring a sense of hope and optimism, as opposed to having famous artists dance on stage during a political debate. She decided to have somebody come in there and give a motivational speech that resonates with the audience that is watching and waiting for this particular campaign to take off. Fantastic ideas. Now, Michelle's speech was a game changer, cementing her status as a powerful force in American politics and marking a turning point in Barack's campaign. So Michelle's influence on Barack's campaign was evident in the way he carried himself, the way he connected with voters, and the way he articulated his message. Notice in recent times, he's actually becoming a little bit more and more normalized. He was able to do a little bit of a recital of Eminem's rap one day. It's the kind of stuff that you don't always see a president do, which is really get to the down to earth people. Now, that's something that his wife encouraged him to do. So the greatness of the man was because of the greatness of the woman, where in most scenarios, a woman is defined by her man. This is a scenario where this man was defined by the skills and dedication of this woman. And that's one of the things that we say, is that the greatest men in the world were built by a woman. So we're trying to get the women back into the mentality of having men treated like Build-A-Bears, as opposed to having men treated like walking ATM machines. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if you don't make the man successful, the ATM machine is going to run out of money. If you invest in the man and the man takes those investments and invests in themselves, where money can start making money for him, at some point the man is going to be able to take those investments and redirect them back to you, where you're going to be able to start receiving some dividends off of that. But if it's just receive, your well will run dry at some point. It just happens that way. Now, Michelle's presence helped humanize him. Look at that. I'm telling you, it's making him more less politically robotic and more down to earth and human. It's taking him a long time, but it's getting him there, and it's making him more relatable to the likable voter. And Michelle's background and values resonate deeply with Barack's message, covering her passion and conviction, inspiring countless people. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk about is what are traits and characteristics of a woman that shows value to a man. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, because when I talk about how amazing that Michelle Obama has become for Barack, so she was like his savior, for the lack of a better term. And the fact is that there are a lot of women out there that can perform and behave to this magnitude. Some choose not to. But when a man is trying to find a valuable woman, one of the things that he's looking for is a woman that's going to first and foremost embrace her femininity. Men are attracted to women who embrace their feminine qualities. And feminine qualities are going to come into the magnitude of core attributes of femininity. They're going to have emotional qualities, empathy, sensitivity, tenderness, emotional expressiveness, and natural the nurturing and natural disposition, where they have positive behavioral traits, not the overly aggressive ones, gentleness, softness, supportiveness, cooperativeness, modesty, warmth. Nowhere in there is dominating, controlling, and bossing a man around. There nowhere in there is Miss Independent. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, that even with Michelle and Barack, there was a codependency. She's going to benefit from him because she's depending on him to be successful, but he's depending on her to help him be successful. Any of her uh, uh, justice positions that she was trying to do would benefit from being the wife of the president. So if she had an agenda that she wanted to change in justice, she could do that from the White House. So even if her indirect selfishness was to get at the top of the ladder so that she could make changes in the field that she had passion in, she changed that field that she had passion in by helping her husband become president first. As opposed to, you focus on your presidency, I got to focus on my justice scenario. I don't have time to help you with your presidency. I have to focus on my justice scenario. We need changes in my justice scenario. Instead, she said, you know what? Let me just go ahead and put a pin in this over here, because I know I can make changes over here if I make you successful. So instead of putting herself first, she put him first, because by putting him first, she benefits from the success that he makes because they have similar agendas. So when I tell you guys these things, and I tell you guys about standing on your non-negotiable expectations, finding somebody that lines up with your agenda, and then advocating, what's the field? Which field? You talking about Michelle's field, your field, my field, the cotton field? Which field? You want to know whose field are we dealing with? Because there was a social justice here. Okay. Well, yeah, the text do run a bit slow, so the text do run a bit slow. We've got a guy that Colombo. Well, Colombo, when a brother gets up and starts talking about stuff that makes sense instead of trying to make an ass out of himself, it definitely does look weird, doesn't it? To see a man in a suit in the middle of the night sitting over here telling you guys about how to become more successful. It's not something that you're used to seeing, isn't it? Well, this is what men of value look like in the middle of the night, putting in work, share knowledge and information with successful men like Jay, who stopped so that he could come and learn what's going on and try to get some insight and information, because he's probably going to be able to take this back, and whether he helps the young folks in his neighborhood with the young brothers that can use some of this knowledge, or tell some of this stuff to some of his daughters where they can learn how to behave with more self-respect and self-dignity, so that they can start dating men that have more class and dignity, instead of the young boys that's out there with Glock switches tackling one another at the street corner. I'm just saying, the passing on that knowledge, that's what we do, and it's something that we forgot to do for generations. And since we talking about the first lady in the field of rights, yeah, well, I'm talking about the first lady in in she's in social justice, and Michelle Obama was in social justice, and she being in social justice, you and I getting pulled over at a traffic stop, and her making changes where we're not getting pistol whipped anymore. The mandatory law that came out that made the police officers have to start wearing body cameras comes from individuals like Michelle that is getting out there saying, hey, we got to make some changes. The laws that are starting to revolve around the video footage that is being used from those traffic stops is definitely changing the mentality of some judges when it comes down to when we try to take civil action on individuals for misrepresenting and changing the story from what really happened to what they wrote in a report. Because historically, for the past 200 to 400 years, whatever was written in the police report was considered what happened, even if it wasn't the truth. So you, as the accused, was never in a situation where you was telling the truth if you wasn't saying that what happened on that piece of paper is really what happened, which puts you in a compromising position, because now you got to prove that you didn't do what was written on that paper, and you have no proof because you have not been free since the day that they wrote that information on paper. So these days, now that we're able to take stuff like the body cameras and take it on down there, we could subpoena it because it's public record. We could take it on down there and we can go show them, hey, this is what happened. Then you've got these folks out here where I'm on both sides of the fence, because I feel like if there's an emergency and somebody's losing their life, you're supposed to be able to call for help. But I also believe that if there's more than one phone out there, one person should elect to call for help, and everybody else should record what's going on and get the email address of the victim and send the victim all that video footage so that he has evidence as to what happened to him. And I also believe that if you ever pass by an individual, regardless of their race, and there's 12 cop cars behind that one car, pull over and go see what's going on, because that's how you save a life. That's what I believe. You ain't got to get involved in a situation. You just got to stop, because in a traffic stop, you've got to be further away because they'll try to shoot you on the side of the road. So if they've got this car and they're 12 cars down the line, you can pull over in front of the first car and you can stand like 4 car lengths up, where you can kind of like stand in front of them and zoom in and really get there and pay attention to what's going on, so that you can make sure that they ain't snatching this man out the car, beating him up, all this other stuff. You're not allowed to block traffic so that you can pay attention to what's going on, but you can pull over and get in there. No, I'm not saying that I really think that Michelle Obama officially enforced the body camera, but I do believe that in social justice, individuals that are pushing for equality and social justice, where the people are not being mistreated by the authority, people like Michelle Obama is going to be the reason why body cameras became mandatory. And I do believe that it was not just something that happened in an individual state court, because states around the country have made it a mandatory policy for law enforcement to wear body cameras. So think about that. I said that Michelle Obama would have been one of the reasons. So let's get it right now. What I said was she would have been one of the reasons, because she didn't jump into the White House and say mandatory body cameras, but pushing the social justice and putting the fact that the people should be all treated equally into law. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, she would have contributed. But think about this though. Like I'm talking about her contributions towards us having a little bit safer traffic stop. You think about all the people that got locked up in order for us to be able to sit in the front of the bus, even though we choose to sit in the back of the bus. Think about all of the people that lost their lives because they chose to sit in the middle of the bus, or because there wasn't enough room in the back of the bus and they decided to sit in the front of the bus. How many of those people who contributed to the success of us being able to sit wherever we want, and we still choose to mob up in the back of the bus, how many of them are actually getting the finger pointed at them as helping to revolutionize the country? It doesn't happen. So an individual that's able to make it to the White House, I definitely am going to put her abilities to contribute to a better country definitely comes from the ability to be at the top, because laws are made at the top. Laws aren't made in the middle. Nobody makes a law in an inner city sanctum and have that inner city sanctum overrule what the U.S. Congress puts out there. Take, for example, what happened with TikTok. They just passed the law, they passed the ruling not too long ago that said that they're going to enforce that ban on TikTok coming January 19th. So give it like 30 days, and TikTok's going to be officially banned countrywide, and you're going to see that it's going to be harder to access TikTok from U.S. soil. Now, if you're able to find a way to VPN on your cell phone, you might be able to slide on in there, but that means that you'll be able to use the platform to see what people are doing in other countries. You're not going to be able to stream from the United States into that particular platform. So content creators are going to start seeing a loss of traffic when it comes to that. And things like that happen because people at the top make changes. And the rest of us just have to deal with that. So if you was making business on TikTok, you're going to have to switch over to start over on YouTube, or switch over to Instagram, or, switch over to Facebook Live or something like that until Facebook Live gets kicked, because Facebook Live is being sued right alongside ByteDance. So think about that. You asked me, have I ever been locked up? I can tell you right now, everybody with a tan in the 80s got theirs at least once in their life. So I'm no exception to that. You've seen what happened with NWA. You know what I'm saying? You know that all you got to do is just be outside. All you got to do is just be outside, and you can get got at some point in time. And he's gonna tell me I'm talking fast. I definitely have a lot of information to put out there, and I definitely have this. Okay, so I'm not a slow speaking, nighttime, like I'm gonna help you fall asleep kind of information kind of person. I'm the kind of guy that is going to give you a lot of information in a short period of time, and I'm gonna try my best not to waste your time with it. So I am going to talk a little bit fast. I am going to try to restate some of the things that I said to make sure that I can simplify it a little bit more for you, so that you can kind of catch on with the momentum of my dialogue. But he says, I don't think you really know what you are talking about. Well, Jay, I love your enthusiasm. You don't have to know anything about what I'm talking about. But I can definitely tell you that just because I'm talking fast doesn't mean that I'm not knowledgeable about my information. Okay, so he's going to tell me, so you don't really understand how the law works, and you are talking out your ass. Okay, fantastic. I love this energy. An individual that tells me that I don't know how the law works is an individual that doesn't know what's going on. I completely love that enthusiasm. So, Jay, since you know more about the law than I do, by all means, try to enlighten me on that particular concept, Jay, because I can tell you right now, the way laws work is that the laws are made up at the top, and they do get trickled down. They're loosely written in federal law, and then they're more strictly written on state law level. And then after they're strictly written on state law level, they are more strictly written on city and county levels. So the most strict version of the law is going to be in your city or your county, because you're going to have city ordinances, county ordinances, then you're going to have state laws, then you're going to have federal laws. And the Constitution says that the laws are not supposed to contradict one another, and if they do, they're nullified in your favor. So you're telling me that I don't know enough about the laws to tell you that all it takes is for the right person with the right motivation to make a change. And that change doesn't come from a bunch of people marching down the street. That change comes from somebody with the ability to make and change laws, due to the fact that a bunch of people were marching down the street. So who made the divorce laws? Who made the equal rights laws for women? How did it come about? Somebody with the ability to do that on a nationwide level came about doing that, because enough of the American people believed that that was something that needed to change. So really, really pay attention. Nicole, what is the channel about? Well, this and that is about this, that, and everything in between. We talk about a lot of stuff. I've been talking to you guys about business and finance as of recently, because I knew we were heading in a direction of a Republican party that was going to be running a communist country. And if you're not making yourself financially successful, then you're never going to find it, because this is going to be the year, the decade that you're going to see the most opportunities with financial wealth and financial freedom. I also talk about social inequalities. We also talk about relationship topics, how to make yourself a better man, how to make better decisions as a human being, regardless of whether or not you're a man or a woman, because a lot of the things that apply to men apply to women too, since women are becoming more masculine and behaving and taking over the man's roles. So advice across the board. we talk about current events that happen in other countries as well as things that are happening in America, but I'm not really too much chasing every single chaotic story that happens in this country, because I mean, we already see the news. Am I a Republican or a Democrat? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't necessarily, regardless of which one that I would claim on my voters registration. The fact is that the policies of the political party that is uh, running is what matters to me. Because let's take, for example, when the year that Hillary Clinton ran, she was campaigning for unified healthcare, where you would get free healthcare, a lot like in so many other countries where all you had to do was just go to the doctor, no medical bills. Now, not too many people in the top 1% would like that, because that means that pharmaceuticals would be negatively impacted by that. Health insurance would be negatively impacted by that. So big business would have been negatively impacted by that. Clearly, she didn't make it in. But that was a good idea. But she was going against Obama that year. Now, let's move forward when we talk about this past one that just happened. We had one person that was campaigning for what was she campaigning for? She was campaigning for abortion. I did not like the way the campaign was pitched, because I mean, any man that willfully participates in creating a child should have a choice in whether or not the child gets terminated. And I also believe that unless there is no man involved with full knowledge, with a notarized signature saying, hey, I don't want to have nothing to do with this, that unless the child is negatively impacting her health, that the child should live. She doesn't have to keep it, but she should not be the only person with the right to terminate a life when she wasn't the only person that created it. Now, under the circumstances where she gets negatively impacted by assault, if the person is in prison and she doesn't want to deal with the psychological trauma, it's probably one of those special case scenarios. But just because you're mad at your husband or mad at your boyfriend, or doesn't want your boyfriend or your husband to know because of your infidelities, that's not the type of scenarios where, oh, I'm going to go and get rid of it, should be an option. But the blue team said, oh, we're pushing this. I didn't agree with that. I did agree with the $1.3 million for everybody with a good tan, because I've got a good tan. But at the same time, she was talking about the hidden fees thing. We pay, if it says service fee, we pay whatever that value is. We don't really care what it is. So I mean, her campaigning to make it a thing so that they can itemize all the stuff that we're going to pay for. We don't even read the notes there on we don't even read the notes on the terms and conditions to use the apps. A lot of these apps that we click OK on just so that we can use the app gives the app permission to tap into our cameras and tap into our phones, which means that any company that we've downloaded an app from, after we click that accept button, allows us to be monitored like Big Brother. So those of us who wish that they had a warrant to wiretap our house, we can voluntarily get our houses wiretapped just because we downloaded a social media app. So let's really think about like the stuff that was going on in those campaigns. The blue team was actually pushing to spend American tax dollars to give refugee housing to individuals that illegally crossed over the border, help them find jobs and send them back, which is a large quantity of money that they could have utilized to help the homeless people in the United States have temporary emergency housing, get them cleaned up, help them find jobs, and get them reincorporated back into our society, as opposed to wasting our money and sending them back out. Then you also got to look at what's going on the other side of the fence. This is the part that doesn't affect everybody. So you have the red team going up against the rainbow community. That's not good for everybody who wants to have freedom of choice. You had they were going to be getting rid of everybody who hasn't already planted a citizenship flag here. That's not good, because you're going to be separating families. And the undocumented portion of our country is part of the agriculture portion of our country, which is the reason why our grapes and our strawberries are so dang cheap. Then your boy stacking tariffs on, which is going to make offshore shipping more expensive, which is going to contribute to inflation. So when you're buying all your stuff from overseas over to America, you're going to see that the stuff that comes over is going to cost more, which means that you're going to spend more. And since they're not giving raises, like talking about it, just because they're going to reduce the taxes a little bit, doesn't mean that you're not going to pay more money. So you're still dealing with the fact that you're not actually benefiting at all. Then your boy is going to be taking away public coverages. He's going to be, because he's privatizing healthcare. So the Social Security and stuff that you guys was getting for free from the government, now you got to pay out of pocket. And that's up to like $700 something a month, depending on which plan you have. And you also have to understand that in addition to that, he was doing away with student debt relief. He was getting rid of second tier loans. You just got to understand, like, neither side really had anything that benefited the bottom 99%. But if you went towards the top 1%, if you were building your own business, if you were a S corporation, not an S corporation, more like an LLC or C corporation style development, then you would be able to see all of the stuff that came out from the red team benefiting those guys. So if you haven't started up a business, you probably should. Some kind of way you will be benefiting from all of the policies that are going to be put in from the red team. But neither side actually really had anything that benefited everyone. So you have to really pick and choose which side of the fence that you are going to be on. So Jay said, you had to get specific, but bring up Michelle Obama as well. Well, I was getting specific after I talked about how positive Michelle Obama was and how she positively impacted her husband, because, we don't really have a society full of women that actually support their husbands. We have a society of women that look for the finished product. And since they look for the finished product, the fact of the matter is, you as a man, when you become financially successful, the woman that comes is going to be becoming there for your success. But you as a man who is making himself financially successful, as you're making yourself financially successful, the women aren't really showing you the same interest. So when you start talking about partnering with somebody after you're the finished product, she has to show you that she's worthy of your success, because she didn't make you who you are today. And the whole purpose of utilizing Michelle Obama was to explain, when I start talking about how some of the mistakes that women make with their decision-making process, is that women like Michelle Obama is the kind of woman that men actually look for. So that's one of the reasons why I did that, Jay. And then she asked me if I voted. If I voted, would it have mattered? Because the direction that I'm leaning in is making myself big business. So big business got in the office. So she's just curious to understand, hey, you got to hang out. And, hey, it's not just that I talk fast, it's that a lot of people's internet ain't moving as fast as I'm moving. So you probably listening a little bit slow, but that's okay, though. Because if you need me to repeat myself, I can try my best to slow it down a little bit more for you and restate it a second time, because there's no time limit to my podcast. But at the same time, I also don't want to dull you with a slow monotone voice so that we can really not make it make sense. But if you ever want to have conversation in real time, there is a link in the comment section, and I can throw it back in there for you guys, where you can click the link, approve the mic, approve the camera, and come up here and talk to me in real time. And we can have an open mic, open forum, open-minded discussion where you'll be able to say what you got to say and be heard and be able to hear me in real time so that you can keep up. She says I'm all over the place. Well, this show is about this, that, and everything in between. So I didn't just decide that I was going to come to the show today and just talk about one thing. I start talking about a thing. There's a major topic, and then there's a series of straw man topics that come up based on the interactions and engagements of the fans. If you guys ask me questions, I try my best to interact with you guys so that we can try to have a reasonable discussion. But at the same time, I do want to make sure that I do make a lot of the points that I had decided to make for the show for the day, but I'm not going to ignore you guys as long as what you're saying is appropriate. All you did was no, she actually didn't ask me who I voted for, Jay. She asked me if I voted. And the fact is that I was answering her previous question still while she was asking me whether or not I voted or not. So as I go down these things, if your comment or your statement was appropriate, I am going to feed back in and provide you with a response to your appropriate comment, because the same way there's lag in you receiving what I said versus when you type the message, I'm going to get the message in real time, but you're going to hear my statement lag time. So that means that I got to go back and grab your comment, which you see at the top of the screen, and then I'm going to talk about what just got said. So until I address what's at the top of the screen, everybody that came commented after that, I haven't gotten to that response yet. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm not overlooking it. I just haven't gotten to that part yet. And she says, oh, okay. So what do you think about Michelle Obama? Well, look, hey, I think that she is fantastic because she was able to support her husband. They both had similar goals. They both was able to work in the direction of backing each other's agendas. And she knew how not to make him look like a fool, which is something that men struggle with finding out of the women that is on the anywhere in the Western culture. Really, I'm trying to find a way to appropriately put it, because when I start making these statements, somebody's going to jump in and they're going to start saying, hey, you're being misogynistic because you're making these comments. No, I'm actually realistic. I'm more of a uniformed individual than I am something leaning towards something moral or ethical, because morals and ethical are subject to the individuals, and because it's subjective, it is not absolute. But uniformism is more absolute. And while I will do the same thing the exact same way every time you change a variable, the fact of the matter is that my society doesn't have to function the way that I function. But because I come from a more universal compass of uniformity, I'm in a position where once I've made it make sense, it makes sense to you. Because when you start changing positions, if I say, hey, I should have the right to say and or do to somebody else, then you would be able to say, well, what happens if the roles were reversed? And I would be able to say, well, yeah, that would actually be the thing. I see her say, well, good luck to you. Enjoy your night. Hey, make sure that you like and subscribe. If you like some of the stuff that we talked about today, you can come into the show. We're here 7 nights a week. We are changing our live time because we used to start at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific. But we are changing the timeline. We're going to start a little bit later. That way we can make sure that we have better preparation time. You asked me before, what kind of business should I start? And real quick, there are no businesses that you can start that are real quick. Every business takes a lot of time. It takes 2 to 4 years to get stable on a business, but you can start making money quickly in a business depending on the type of niche that you get into. And you're also going to be able to, I was giving you, look at a lot of the videos that I put out there. We have in offshore investments. We have startup businesses that you can utilize here in the United States. I gave you a way to start up an LLC, a C corporation, a trust, a business trust. You're able to now, with the laws that are supporting Bitcoin and other such high earning investments, you can actually start up an investment business that's just about taking money and investing into stocks and bonds and making dividends off of that money, where you can then, as an investor of your business, receive dividends from your business. But if you put that business into a trust and that the dividends is going into the trust, and then you're a beneficiary of the trust, guess what you get? Tax-free money. We can start talking about stuff like that on a regular basis, but that really requires for you guys to swing our way. Now, she asked me if I'm married. Regardless of whether or not I'm married, my position is going to remain the same. My wife is going to respect my authority, and I'm not going to cow tip to anything other than. She will get my utmost appreciation, admiration, and respect, but at the same time, she is going to give me the respect that I demand. And I will, and you got to understand that respect is given, it's not earned. We maintain respect and we maintain the ability to be admired and appreciated and trusted based on our abilities to meet the expectations of the person that trusted us and respected us to begin with. We lose respect when we start acting disrespectfully, and we lose trust when we start acting distrustful. And truth be told, while people say, oh yeah, you can earn that back, no, it never comes back. If you lose somebody's loyalty or somebody's respect, they never look at you the same way. They always have doubts. If you lose somebody's ability to believe in you, you never get that back. Yeah, they might still roll with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to keep following you the way they used to follow you, because they can't trust you to see things through the way they used to have faith in you to see things through. It is just the way it is. So in order for you to maintain your position as a man in a relationship with a woman, you have to make sure that you maintain the position that you are strong and that you will be all right and that you can get us through. It's not a situation as a man where you can get yourself through. It's you got to get yourself, your wife, your girlfriend, your kids for your girlfriend, your kids for your wife, your kids for your ex baby mama. You got to get everybody through, because as the leader of your pack, no matter how big your pack is, as a leader of your pack, you have to be successful with making sure that your pack is taken care of too, which is a codependent relationship. It's one of the things that I was saying earlier. You can't be in a relationship where independence lives. Self-sufficiency will function in a relationship. Self-sufficiency will function way better in a relationship than independence, because independently, you will sacrifice the people in your squad so that you will survive. Independently, you will make choices against the best interests of your group so that you personally benefit. But self-sufficiently, you will hold the fort down until backup arrives. Self-sufficiently, you will make sure that you are good enough to still be standing when the rest of the group shows up. But self-sufficiently, you're still looking forward to some relief. You're still looking forward to the reinforcements. Self-sufficiently, you're like a Marine. You're able to get out there and do so much, but you're looking at some backup to come and save the day at some point when you're overwhelmed in the trenches. Independently, you're not looking for nobody to come to your aid. So you're going to make decisions that might sacrifice other people because they're not expecting other people to come to their aid because they're independent. So independence is not good for relationships. And I've said that the last 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I want you guys to understand that when it comes down to a positive, healthy relationship, that is a codependent relationship. The stronger the codependent bond, the better the relationship will be. The more that he depends on her, the more valuable she is to him. The more that she depends on him, the more valuable he is to her. So if you've got a situation where I don't need you, I can do it all by myself, she ain't got no value in you, bro. And likewise, if all she's going to do is say, give me money for my hair, nails, and whatever, then she has no value in you and she's taking all your money because she could do it all by herself. So why are you paying for it all? Now, if you're paying for it all because you're taking that responsibility off of her plate, then that means she's going to take your responsibilities off of your plate so that there's still balance. But if there's no balance where you have twice as much responsibility because you're trying to keep this person into your life, you are taking on a liability. And it works both ways. The fact that inequality dictates that women have the ability now to be leaders in their relationships, even though they become dictators and tyrants, instead of just being a normal leader in their relationship. The fact is that women have the ability to become more financially successful than men. So when we start talking about the ways that we can go about making ourselves financially successful, I just want you guys to know that, yeah, you guys should be making the first move. You guys should be paying for the first date, first 5 dates, really. And then if the man commits to you, then he could take over. Or if you want him to pay for the first handful of dates, and then when you commit to him, then you financially take over and start running the wave. But let's be honest, men don't really care if a woman's got money. Man's not going to be like, ooh, she looks rich. Flip the script, though. Women don't care if a man's got good character these days. Because what do you do for a living and how much money do you make? First handful of questions that they ask, right around the time they ask you what your name is. But also keep in mind, if you're short, they're gonna come at you with, you're not my type. Man would be the perfect match for her. But because he's under 5'8", she ain't really trying to have it. What can you say? You can either have the prince that's 5'4", 5'6", that will worship the ground that you walk on and make you the heir to his throne, or you can have that Nick Cannon, Chris Brown, Bill Cosby, Mike Tyson situation where you're one of many women or getting beat up, something to that effect. Women want monogamy, but you're going to see more monogamous relationships in financially challenged relationships. Because a man can only he can only have the quantity of women he can afford to pay for. Because dating a woman is not free. Even affairs are not free. So a man can only have as many women as he can afford to pay for. in every society, even in the Western society. So women that want a man that's financially successful, you want a man that is fluid with money, you're really asking for a man that has the ability to afford 3, 4, 5 relationships at the same time. And if you're not willing to meet the needs of that man so that he can exclusively dedicate all of his resources to you, you're failing yourself and you're failing the relationship when you come in, because you're leaving the door open for a replacement if you're not leaving the door open for additions. And then again, on top of that, if he can afford to pay for 2, 3, 4 women, why don't you tag in and just have 2 or 3, 4 women involved in a situation so that you don't have to give him your undivided attention all the time, because your headache, your stomach hurts, you're cramping, it's that time of the month, you have a fever. All of these things that you guys utilize as an excuse to reject a man that's funding your existence, you might as well just tag in girl number 2 or girl number 3 and let them do it. So you don't have to tell them no. You can tell them, oh, she was going to do that. Now you don't have to. It makes sense. But I mean, at the end of the day, not too many women are going to agree with that, because 99% of men can't afford to do it like that. Especially the largest majority of the individuals that are making under 100,000 a year, it can't afford to do all that. So you got to be able to earn your keep. You got to be able to show your value. If you're going to get this man and have him exclusive to you, he's going to exclusively put his money into your pocket, which means that you are going to have to make sure that all of his needs are met exclusively on a regular basis with no gaps and no days off. That's how that works. However, Jay said, well, that's a W. Well, I don't know if that's a W as in that's a win, but I appreciate both of you guys. Can we get back to the law argument? You never answered my question. So while I'm on this long spiel, I left you with the original question about what's your knowledge on law, and you did not give me any information. I definitely went on a spiel about the different levels of law and how law is created and how laws are enforced. And then you started talking to Nicole about how I talk fast. But even though I talk fast, I spent 20 minutes answering all of Nicole's questions. I asked you, what is your knowledge on law? Because you don't believe that I know how the law works. I know my experiences with law. I know your experiences with law, and I know that you're free today, and so am I. So I understand that we have at least beat the system to the magnitude where neither one of us are making this type of discussion from a holding cell. I know that you and I, Jay, have pretty much the same experiences when it comes down to freeze, don't move, put your face on the ground, and you look like a suspect. That does not fit my description, but because we both got the same tan, I can definitely tell you that you and I probably had some of the same experiences in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, especially with them dreads you got going on there, brother, which are very sharp, by the way. I'm just saying, there are ways. And when you tell me that I don't know how the law works, I also know that when I told you advice wise that you don't really want to get too close to a traffic stop, even though safe distance is 10 feet, 20 feet in some states, that you want to be 2 or 3 car lengths. A car is about 8 feet long on average, unless you got you a compact car. And I said 2 or 3 car lengths. That is over 16 feet between 2 cars if they're touching bumper to bumper. But knowing that we usually leave 2 to 3 feet in between each car, 2 car lengths would be about 21 feet. So when I say 21 to 25 feet, when I say 2 or 3 car lengths, sir, I'm saying safe distance. You're so far away from the traffic stop. If they're in the middle of the traffic stop, 12 cars deep, and you pulled up and got out your car and you sat on the back bumper of your car and videotaped what they were doing, they can't tell you shit because you're so far away from the traffic infraction. They've got to stop what they're doing and come over there and come and tell you what to do. And they can't tell you what to do because you're not involved in the situation because you're so far away that you couldn't impact it if you wanted to. I would say, though, that you shouldn't jump out of the car with a gun on your hip talking about I'm going to monitor this situation, because when they see gun, they're going to start shooting at you. Even though you've got your hand on your cell phone, the fact of the matter is they're going to act irrationally. Now, tell me, Jay, what part of yes, they can. They could pull you over for absolutely no reason. It's not legal. It's not right. But yes, they can. And you know what's funny about that, brother? When they pull people over for no reason, they're looking for a reason to justify the fact that they pulled you over, which is why they start asking you stupid ass questions like, do you know why I pulled you over? Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Because they want you to incriminate yourself. That's why you're being encouraged these days to not answer any questions. The first thing you tell them is that I plead the fifth and I'm not answering any questions without a lawyer present. Get me a lawyer. They can't ask you shit else once you say I want a lawyer. But you can also tell them that I'm only making declarative statements until a lawyer comes forward. So you can't ask me any questions. I'm not answering any questions without a lawyer present. They're not going to find a lawyer because police departments don't have lawyers on standby for a random traffic stop. It's not going to happen. Specifically because you are invoking your right to remain silent, you need to shut up after that happens. But if you don't invoke your right to remain silent, if you specifically tell them that you're not answering any questions without a lawyer present, you can hold a whole conversation with them talking about sports, politics, business, whatever you want to do, but you're not answering no questions until they get you a lawyer. And once they start asking you questions after you've asked for a lawyer, they start walking outside of their qualified immunity. Now, you're going to tell that doesn't mean that they're not going to snatch you out the car. That don't mean that they're not going to pistol whip you, mace you, and everything like that. But if you don't fight back, they can't get you with resisting arrest. And then any type of struggle that you have with them does qualify as resisting arrest, even though they attacked you first. So you have to let them beat you up and you got to survive it, go to jail and be like, I don't know what's going on. They pulled me over. They haven't given me justified reason for pulling me over. They beat my ass. I don't know why they beat my ass. They put me in jail. I don't know what they put me in jail for. And this is the first time I'm able to talk to somebody who's willing to answer my questions. And just for the sake of, and I've done this before, I can really tell you that if they ask you, how do you plead? You say, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here because I saw what happened. I'm a witness to what happened, but I don't know what's going on. Why do you have the witness up here? I can guarantee you the judge is going to throw that case out because you're not the culprit. You're not saying I didn't do it. You never say I didn't do it. You never say I did do it. You say, well, I don't know. How do you want the witness to plead? The judge can't be a lawyer at the same time. The judge can't give you legal advice. You don't want your lawyer to give you legal advice. You don't want to have a public defender to make a ruling for you. No, I don't feel like I need a lawyer until I have been shown how the witness has been negatively impacted by the case to become the suspect. Once you piece together that the witness is the suspect, that's when we're able to start going forward. Because I fit the description of the victim and I fit the description of the witness. Now, I can guarantee you there's a lot of things that's going on here. A lot of wheels are spinning, but you're asking me laws, but you're not answering none of my questions. So it's almost like you're trying to pick my brain and get the right answer that you're looking for so that you can say, see, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And I'm still waiting on you to tell me something that actually ratifies your original statement when you said that I don't know anything about laws. So he says, you'll have to show an ID and insurance. Okay. When it comes down to showing IDs and insurances, if you got pulled over by the police officer, shows ID and shows insurance. You don't give them your ID or your insurance card. That's not a requirement by law. They have to see your driver's license and see your proof of insurance, unless you're one of those sovereign nation folks. And he's going to say, well, lawyers are only for statements. Lawyers are actually to protect all of your rights. It's supposed to be, at least. And it's not only for statements. Your responses to questions, sir, are statements, but your statements that are in response to questions are considered answers. And those answers can be used as evidence. And that evidence can be used to incriminate you. So you never answer any questions, not without a lawyer present. So if they don't bring you a lawyer, sir, you don't answer any questions. That means that you're not being uncooperative to their investigation. That means that you want legal advice present while you answer questions for their investigation, because you're not required to aid them in their investigation. You're required not to impede their investigation. But their investigation does require, any investigation requires you to have legal counsel present during the investigation when you are being investigated. Now, again, I ask you, what about the law that you know, because you haven't done nothing but ask a bunch of questions, but you said that I don't know what I'm talking about. What about the law do you know, sir? If 5 case law in America that tell you what the police can do whenever you get pulled over. Do you know them? Do you know 5 case law? Because I mean, it's almost like you're using me as like the Wikipedia of information right now. Like you just found you just found the one guy that knows a ton more than what you think he's supposed to know, and walking me through what? Show it. Walking me through it. What you walking me through? Show it. The 5 case laws. So you've got Terry versus Ohio. Okay. So that's one. We got time. I'll make sure I put him up here so that everybody can see him. He's giving us the 5 case laws, y'all, that tells y'all what police can and cannot do when they pull you over. Well, hold on. Let's rephrase that, because what they should and should not do when they pull you over is a more effective statement, because truth be told, they can do whatever they want to do to you while you're out there, especially if you're unarmed, because you're at the mercy of the guns that are holding you hostage. Now, what they're legally allowed to do versus what they could potentially be criminally charged for is 2 different things. But he said Terry versus Owens, so he's got one. Now let's give him a moment to Google the rest of them, because with how fast I talk, I still talk a lot as well, sir. So with the quantity of time that it takes for me to drop some knowledge and information, because I'm a vat of knowledge, it's just so much stuff. So much stuff that I have to put down in information. And at the end of the day, you're looking at, I asked you a question 45 minutes ago, you never answered it, and then you tried to quiz me on the 5 case laws. You put up Terry versus Ohio, and then you didn't put up any others, but we're still waiting on the other 4. If you know them, why haven't you put them up here? Because if you know them by heart, it shouldn't take that long for you to type it. And while you type it, I can talk about everything else, because as you notice, the name of the show is This, That, and Everything in Between, where we're talking about this and that and everything in between these 2 topics. So 13 different straw topics can develop while you're typing. But I'll still get back to your conversation. So here he goes. He says, you see, you just talking now. How am I just talking? How am I just talking? Because I was talking about how women could behave better and make them better men instead of trying to find better men. And I'm still waiting on you, because you want to talk to me about the law. Because I said that Michelle Obama was in social justice. Notice how we're in a straw man topic where you're trying to prove that I don't know anything about law, because I mentioned that Michelle Obama is in social justice and she used her knowledge and skill set to make her husband successful in politics. So that made her the first lady. I was using the example of how Michelle contributed to Barack's success, which made Michelle more successful, as how women should treat men when women find a man with potential and invest in his success so that his success can make her successful. That's the direction that I was going through with today's show. And because I said that her experience with social justice led to his success, and then I said that her decision to say, instead of me focusing on my career choice of justice, then I'm going to focus on my husband's career choice in politics, because if I'm at the top of the political ladder, I have more influence on my justice position. That's what I said. And you said, oh, what do you know about justice? So now you're saying that, you say, because I don't understand Terry stops. How do I not understand Terry stops? Because a Terry stop requires them to have reasonable articulable suspicion for it to be an appropriate stop. Second of all, an individual that stops 25 feet away from a Terry stop is not interfering with the Terry stop. So where do I not understand what I'm talking about? Enlighten me, because you asked me about, you mentioned 5 case laws, you only named 1. And then after you named one, and then you say Terry versus Ohio, and then you say, I'm just talking because I don't understand Terry stops. Terry versus Ohio is where Terry stops come from. So what part of that are you trying to make sense about it? I didn't say she was great in social justice. You're straw manning my statements. You say, yes, you can't say Michelle Obama is great in social justice when you don't understand justice. I never said she was great in social justice. I said that her skill set in social justice, her career choice in social justice, which has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not she's good at it. What she wanted to do with her life could be enhanced by what her husband wants to do with his life, which means her making him successful makes her successful. What does that have to do with her being good about it? And then her skill set in social justice. What does that have to do about my knowledge about justice? What does that have to do about my knowledge about injustice? Make that make sense. Terry stops are just pat downs. All right. All right. So you clearly don't understand what you're talking about. Terry stops are just pat downs. So you clearly don't understand what you're talking about. So you're trying to say that I don't know what I'm talking about all of the information that I've been putting out here for the past 14 months because you don't understand. You have not even been able to find 5 case laws and post them up here. And then after you find those, thank you, Max the Poser. Dive in. Look, today's the day for it, Max. Today is the day for it because this gentleman here, Jay, is trying to say now you and your dad Joe's been on the show before, and for real, with all the stuff that we've talked about here, we were talking about Jocelyn. Remember the skater Jocelyn? We were talking about him and Tony Hawk Pro Skater. All of the things we talk about on this podcast, and I make it make sense every single time. I roll out all of the facts and the information about it every single time. This gentleman wants to sit here and yeah, I know. Hey, see, when you register with the podcast as a official account, I'm able to see when you change your name. That's why I know who you are. I know exactly who you are, Bricko Mode. But this gentleman came over and he's trying to explain he first of all he's not answering any of my questions, but while he's not answering any of my questions, he's trying to make it seem like I don't know enough about law to be able to talk about a relationship that involves somebody in law versus somebody in politics. Now, I don't know why he's trying to do that when we talk about 30 different topics in a single episode. And there's plenty more episodes to come because after this podcast, I'm going to be listing at least 6 or 7 more topics for the upcoming week. And tomorrow, Sunday, is our members only show that's open to the public right now, where we're going to be responding to questions and comments during the show, where there's going to be a plethora of different relationship style comments that are questions that are going to be coming out, or statements that are going to be coming out. And I'm going to be responding to the behavior of these questions and comments. But Jay's over here telling me that Terry versus Ohio explains pat downs. So he's going to tell me that he knows more about law because out of the 5 that he mentions, he's talking about Terry versus Ohio, which doesn't really show. It doesn't show any knowledge about law. It doesn't show any knowledge about case law. It shows that you might have been hemmed up and slammed up against a brick wall a couple times. So you memorized Terry versus Ohio so that you could tell police officers that they're not supposed to do that. But when Jay says, oh, there's things that they can't do during a traffic stop, bro, they can pistol whip you on the side of the road. You seen how that highway patrol guy was mounting this female pregnant woman and was punching her in the face for a good grip? I mean, clearly he lost his job after that, but what stopped him from doing that? What stopped him from beating on that woman on the side of the road? Remember the police officer not too long ago that was called to the home to rescue somebody who thought they were in danger, and they ended up murdering a woman in the house? Now you're supposed to be protecting this woman, but you murdered the woman into the house. You know, I'm just saying, you're talking about social justice, dude. I'm trying to find out what you're talking about. Well, Max, some of those comments are just a little bit inappropriate for me to put up onto the main screen here, but only in Ohio is wild. Well, it's not only in Ohio. The fact that you only brought up Terry versus Ohio, and when you're talking about the pat down variation of the law, not so much the actual the difference between being pulled over and for a moving violation and being pulled over because of you did something is two different things. And the fact is that in either situation, they are supposed to have reasonable, articulable suspicion to engage you. They don't have a right to just come and start putting their hands on you, because that is considered a search, and they may do it, but they don't have the right to do it. And the fact is that if they do it without your consent, and they do not have probable cause, and there isn't any reasonable, articulable suspicion displayed at the beginning of this conversation, fact of the matter is that they are engaging you without just cause. And anything that they find as a result, if you have the right lawyer, could potentially be thrown out of the case, where anything that they find out of after the fact can't be used to incriminate you in a situation where you originally wasn't performing criminal behavior to their knowledge, because they're supposed to seek and apprehend based on their constitutional identification, not so much protect and serve the way we believe that they're supposed to protect and serve. They have more of a model to protect and serve, but their constitutional obligation to protect and serve has been changed many decades ago to seek and apprehend. So they are not the ones that are supposed to be coming to your aid when you haven't done anything that needs their aid. They're the ones that's supposed to be finding a problem and their first response. So they're not the ones that is going to see that they're going to intervene and stop something from happening. They're the ones to come and do something about it after something has happened. So if you're in a situation where you need help up until the aftermath, they're not going to come to help. Well, look at their response time, 45 minutes. You can be right across the street to be a 45-minute response time. This is one of the reasons why Second Amendment, defend yourself, stand your ground, and castle doctrine laws that people know about, that people try to utilize in certain states to the best of their ability, where you have to remember where cartilage is, because you can defend yourself to the edge of your porch. But in some situations, if you tack your target in the back, you're looking at potentially getting hit with attacking them because they were retreating. Some of those laws, like preemptive self-defense at the home, does require an individual to be in the direction of your property in order to be deterred off the property with an unspecified quantity of force, which, by the way, since most states don't allow warning shots and they don't like stray bullets leaving the scene of the incident, you would have to ground the ammo near the person in the dirt, not ricochet it off of the concrete, which also means that in those situations, you're going to have to find some kind of grassy knoll or knock it into a tree, or, well, hopefully that it doesn't go anywhere, because at the end of the day, the negligence of the discharge of your firearm leaving the scene of the incident could cause harm to somebody else. And that's where, even if you're defending yourself, you could go to jail, like the guy in the mall who was defending himself from somebody who was bullying him in the mall. It was a prank, but essentially from the perspective of the shooter, he was being bullied by somebody that he was afraid for his safety, and he shot the guy in the gut. But he shot the guy in the gut with a through-and-through style 9mm shot that the bullet could have hit somebody else after it hit the target in a highly populated area, which means that his decision-making process was negligent. While he didn't get the manslaughter charge for shooting the guy, he still got discharging the firearm in a residential, which still gave him a low-tier felony, high-tier misdemeanor kind of situation that put him on probation for 5 to 10 years. So you have to know the aftermath of your decision-making process. So while you claim that I don't know enough about law, you say, now you're going to ask me, how do we change this? Well, Jay, how do we change the shit that happens in this country? First, we got to talk about it, Jay. We got to talk about the problems. We got to talk about the shit that don't make sense. That's what we do on this podcast. We talk about the shit that don't make sense. Then we start making first-person accountability decisions where we change the way we behave so that we don't evolve in certain things, because first-person accountability, you're responsible for the decisions that you make. You're responsible for the decisions that you make that impact the people around you. You're responsible for the decisions of the people around you that make stupid decisions that negatively impact the success of your agenda. So the first three things you have to do is improve the decision-making process that you make so that you're not making stupid mistakes. Then you have to improve the decision-making process where you are not making the type of decisions that benefit your agenda but negatively impacts the agenda of the people around you. Then you have to change the people around you that are making stupid mistakes that negatively impact you. Don't go to the store with somebody who steals so that when they steal, you get in trouble with them. Don't ride in a car with somebody that drinks and drives so that whatever they do doesn't negatively impact you. Don't go party with somebody that makes careless mistakes, because their careless mistakes could lead you with a negligent homicide charge because somebody died while somebody else was being stupid and you was standing there watching instead of calling for help. We've got to make better choices. Then those of us with good tans, we have to break the stereotype. Fireball, special shout out to Fireball, because I seen you in here, bro, but I was answering a lot of these questions. The fact is, we have to change the decisions that we make and carry ourselves by breaking a stereotype, carrying ourselves to a higher level of regard. Notice I'm sitting in here in a suit, not sitting here throwback jerseys on and trying to be cool MOD or nothing to that effect. I look like this on a regular basis. I don't just look like this for the podcast. You might see a man in a suit and be like, oh, hey, I know that guy from the podcast because I wear the exact same clothes on a daily basis. Now, Jay, another thing that I'm going to tell you. You go through federal appeals or you go through lawmakers. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You don't make changes in your society by going through federal appeals or going through lawmakers. You go through federal appeals when you're appealing the case that you're involved in. You're not going to change the world by going through federal appeals and going through lawmakers if you don't know the lawmaker, sir. You're not going to get through the door, get an appointment with the lawmaker, sir. You're going to have to write a letter and you're going to mail it to the right authority figure because the lawmakers aren't in your city. They're not in your neighborhood. You're not going to be able to hop the bus down the street and go talk to the lawmakers. You're not going to be able to walk into their office and say, hey, I want to make a change in law. It doesn't go down that way, bro. Rosa Parks. Right. Now, he's going to scream Rosa Parks. And I'm going to tell you right now, Rosa Parks went to jail. Quite a few people went to jail. A lot of them got beat up and then got brought to jail because we didn't have rights back then. And then you got to understand that until she got let out of jail because somebody had to post bond for her, until she got let out of jail, she was wrongfully put in jail because she sat where she had the ability to sit. Nowadays, we say that that's not a crime, but guess what? During that time frame, when she was sitting wherever she wanted to sit, she was breaking the law because it was against the law for people of her color to sit where she was sitting at because you had to sit behind a cone. So activism sparks social disarray. Social disarray can change laws. And he's going to say that a district court, a.k.a. federal appeals. Sir, the district court, Rosa Parks did not file a petition with the district court in order for the laws to change for you and I to sit in front of the bus. People with more authority than Rosa Parks who knew who to talk to did that. Then on top of that, Rosa Parks didn't make the change of the law. Her actions fueled the society that she lived in to make change. The millions of minority people that marched across the country to the White House made the change. Well, they contributed to the change. They didn't make the change. They contributed to the change. Martin Luther King getting shot to death contributed to the change. Malcolm X contributed to the change. Huey P. I think it's Huey P. Newton, I think is what his name was, who contributed with the Black Panther Party, contributed to the change. But none of these people who were actively making change in their communities ever file a petition with a court. They just taught each other. Like Malcolm X taught us that knowledge is power. If you know the laws, you can use the laws in your favor because the laws wasn't meant for you and me. Remember that? Huey was saying, hey, if you know what you can do with firearms, you can carry a firearm with you and you can protect yourself from the criminal with the badge and the gun. Remember that? Martin Luther King said, turn the other cheek. Let them show their violence so that we can show them who the real monsters are. Remember that? Now, did any of those people put up a petition to make a change in local government? Now, he's talking about when they appealed her verdict, they had to appeal her going to jail, sir. She did not make a law. That's not how case law operates, sir. See, social injustice is not going to come from your individual misconception of how you was treated in your traffic stop or your interaction with law enforcement. It's not going to be made into a law next day. Now, he's going to say Martin Luther King went through lawmakers. Martin Luther King got shot down. You talking about Martin Luther King went through lawmakers. Martin Luther King may have tried to go through lawmakers. So while Martin Luther King tried to go through lawmakers and got gunned down in the street, the laws got passed after that man was assassinated, not before. So the people who made that happen was not Martin Luther King. The people who made that happen was the people who thought that what happened to Martin Luther King was wrong. Again. So he's still sitting over here trying to push the fact that somebody went to the Supreme Court. And I agree that somebody went to the Supreme Court. But somebody after the fact. So again, when you ask me, how do I make the change? I make the change by changing the way I behave in my society. You make the change by changing the way you behave in your society. You and I can talk to the people who have direct connection to the lawmakers and try to convince them to make a change in our society. If me, you, and a few 100,000 other people in the same area believe that this area needs to have a different law, if enough of us go to the same person, we can apply social pressure to that person to change the law by standing outside their office and protesting. Which means you're missing time from work to do this. You losing money in your own household to do this. But if it's important to you, that's what you do. But when you think about when traffic lights was put in the low-income neighborhoods, traffic lights were put into low-income neighborhoods because minority, back in the day, those gangs, the red and blue team, they were out there being crossing guards. They were out there walking the kids to cross the street to safety and stuff. They were out there doing the community watch. They were protecting their country. Not just repping red and blue bandanas and shooting at one another over street corners to sell drugs. They were actually out there protecting their communities back in the day. Everything's changed since then. But the traffic stops, the traffic lights that happened because people said that this needs to be made safer. And they did stuff like regulate the traffic. Until lawmakers decided to say, hey, let's go ahead and put some traffic lights in this neighborhood so that these folks can stop being human traffic lights. But nothing changes overnight. So until things change, sir, you got to change and I got to change. But in order for us to change, the first thing we got to do is we have to recognize that change is needed. In order for us to recognize that change is needed, we have to recognize that this doesn't make sense. And that's what this podcast is about. Now, nowhere in there did you prove that I don't know anything about law. You yet to show me that you know anything about law. You're telling me that the Supreme Court and district appeals is the same thing. Is the Supreme Court and District of Appeals anywhere near you getting beat up on the street corner by a police officer? No, it's not. It's not. And at the same time, what happens in the courtroom happens after you survive what happens on the street. So again, how do you change what happens on the street so that you can survive long enough to make it to the courthouse? Because Jay, if a cop pulls you over tomorrow after they see you saying what you're saying on a podcast and they show you better than they could tell you, Jay, They go and bust out your tail light and tell you that they pulled you over because of a bad tail light. And then they decide to snatch you out of the car because they say they smell weed. And then they decide to throw a bag of cocaine in the back seat of your car. And then they decide to take you to jail for a Schedule 1 drug charge. They got you sitting in a holding cell. You can't even call your next of kin. You waiting to get bonded out. You got to get a lawyer. You got to tell that lawyer how bad they did you because they set you up. You had nothing to do with what they was talking about doing. But guess what? You did have weed in the car because you smoke weed. Most people do. I don't, but most people do. But think about the fact that if you did not have it in the car, they would not have any evidence. All you had to do is just make a different change in how you do what you do, right? Right? Now, you tell me that he's going to ask me an interesting question. Do I know the district circuit I live in? Yes. I make it a point. Not only do I know what circuit I live in, I know how to file the motions. I know how to file the documents in order to get the documents that I want into the court without having to pay the cost of court. I know how to talk to the clerks. I know how to make phone calls. I know how to schedule my hearings. I typically operate without a lawyer 90% of the time when I'm in a courtroom, and majority of the time, I'm always the plaintiff. And I win. And winning doesn't necessarily mean that I have to get a ruling in my favor. Winning means that they settle out of court so that they don't go to trial and lose the case. So you're going to say that you have to appeal. Sir, in order to get to an appeal, they have to rule against you. You do realize that the definition of appeal is you're contesting the ruling, which means that they have to rule that you are wrong, and then you appeal. And when you appeal, that's when somebody says, you know what, you were right the first time. So you're still not showing me clear knowledge of what you're talking about as far as your understanding of law. Because you have to recognize that in order for you to, you're going to tell me that's the Supreme Court. In order for you to get to a scenario where you are in appellate court, you had to have filed civil action, which means you sue somebody first for doing something, which means you have to survive what you went through first and not be in jail at the same time. Whether you get released or never go, you have to get out of jail or not be in jail to file a lawsuit. It's called a civil action, sir. Then after you file that civil action, sir, you go to a judge. You explain the situation. You put up as much evidence as you can. You get a ruling. You don't like the ruling, then you appeal. Now, in order for you to get to appeal court, somebody had to rule against you and say you were wrong. So you're telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about law, but you're not even telling me that you understand the process. Which, might I add, I want to dial it back to, for those of y'all that are just jumping in, that we were originally talking about how awesome Michelle was and how she boosted up Obama and made him successful, and his success was her success, and how good women of value are valued on how much their man benefits from them. And a man of value is valued on how much his woman benefits from him. We are on Jay's really interesting discussion on his limited knowledge of law, where he's trying to prove that I don't know anything about law, when I can tell you that then the fifth best research facility in the United States, all we did was research. And if all we did was research, bro, on a day-to-day basis, while you're playing video games and rolling blunts and hanging out with your homeboys, I'm over here looking stuff up. I have a podcast where I have a different topic every day of the week, which requires me to do research on the topic before I talk about it every day of the week. The last 45 days of business and finance that I talked about requires me to do research on all of the countries that I talked about, including the United States, the different infrastructures that I talked about within the United States, the 3-4 businesses that I hold under my belt, plus how you can start your own business with this information that I learned, plus the information that I found. But you're going to tell me that because you only knew one of what you claim to be 5 laws for a traffic stop, and out of the 5 laws, you came out and said, oh, Terry versus Owens, or Terry versus Ohio, because Terry versus Ohio talks about you getting patted down. Sir, I don't walk nowhere. I don't walk to my mailbox. I drive there from my house to my mailbox. You understand? So I'm not collecting my mail on foot, bro. And when I collect my mail, I collect my mail Second Amendment strong. So in order for them to have a conversation with me, all of us got the same strap. You feel me? Which ironically, with constitutional carry laws, if you're standing there with one and three of them are standing there with one, we got a lot more mutual respect with one another, because you already know that if the victim goes down, at least one of the three is going down with him. Now he's gonna start trying to split hairs. He's gonna say, okay, if you are suing someone, that is civil court. Sir, if you are suing anything, the same way TikTok was taking legal action against the United States for violating their First Amendment right to broadcast in the United States territory, that is a country suing another country in the country in a Supreme Court level, because anything that is above a state level is federal level, and anything that is federal level is in the Supreme Court, sir. But it is a lawsuit. It is a civil action. All of it is civil court, because you only have civil court and criminal court. Well, you actually have quite a few more courts than that, but primarily the ones that are being recognized and used is civil court and criminal court. A bill is passed to change a law when a law is being changed outside of civil action. But just like with TikTok wanting to be able to broadcast in the United States, they have to file civil action against the United States for violating their constitutional rights. That's a civil lawsuit. Doesn't necessarily have to have monetary relief. It could have injunctive relief. Injunctive relief would be that the ban against TikTok would stop. But ByteDance has to sue the U.S. for violating their constitutional rights. And then the U.S. has to say, well, you know, what they're saying is true. Which, when will the U.S. rule against itself? Not going to happen. So, let me go back, because I had to look at some of these topics that these guys were talking about, because if they ever say something appropriate, I want to make sure that I talk about that. So, Fireball. Max, hey, good luck with that surgery, bro. I just want to make sure that that's good. We are a comment too slow. No, I understand that. That's why I put the links into the comment section, so that if you want to click the link, approve the mic, approve the camera, get up here and talk to me in real time, we can always do that. But if you don't want to be seen on the live feed, because we are live, so we are being seen all over the world, you can put into the comments. And that's why I told you earlier that when you make a statement, as long as it is a appropriate statement, I don't have to agree with the statement. If it's an appropriate statement, I will put the statement up onto the comment section, and I will address that statement. And when I address that statement, if you made a statement after the statement that you see at the top of the screen, that means that I haven't gotten to that statement yet. So when I get down to wherever your comment is, because there's lag between what I said and what you heard, and then what you're typing is popping up while I'm saying something you haven't heard yet. That's called latency. And that means that in order for you and I to speak in real time, you got to click the link, approve the mic, approve the camera, jump up here, and we can talk side by side, take turns speaking and stuff. However, for me to follow you in the comment section, I feel like it's more appropriate for me to take your appropriate comments and put them up onto the show so that everybody can read it. And whatever's up there is what I'm talking about right now. Whatever comes after that, I haven't gotten to it yet. And if an inappropriate comment does come through the feed and I don't kick it off of the comment section, I'm not going to put up a directly inappropriate comment up onto the screen where we can be discussing something that's not appropriate for any of us, because not sitting over here trying to get canceled because somebody's trying to be funny. However, you say we're a comment too slow, but if a police throw cocaine in back seat, you'll have to appeal the Supreme Court, District Court, which is the same thing. Now, what you're not understanding is that you have to survive the traffic stop. And when I told you that you asked me, how do we make change? How do we change the way we are treated on the streets? You said, go to the Supreme Court. So I'm telling you, that if we are being mistreated on the street, we have to change the way we behave. We have to change the way we interact with people, and we have to change the decisions that we make on the street so that we can survive what we went through on the street, so that we can make it into the court, so that we can sue whatever it is that they did to us. Because what they did to us, even if it is criminal because they're law enforcement, we have to sue them in a civil court, because the police will not arrest the police unless we've already lost our life. And they determined that our life lost is illegal. But until they confirm that the police officer acted outside of the confines of the law, outside of the protection of immunity, that police officer will not see the inside of a holding cell. So we have to take civil action against a police officer and the department that he or she works for. The same way TikTok had to take it to a Supreme Court, we got to take it to a Supreme Court. But you got to survive the interaction. So when you told me that I was wrong, that no, you don't make change by changing your attitude, changing your decision-making process, changing how you negotiate with the people that are oppressing you on the street. You got to cooperate a little bit more than what you want to and allow certain things to happen, because if you fight back in certain situations in the wrong position, that you're not going to survive the encounter to make it to a criminal court to prove that you were innocent, to get into a civil court to fight for the fact that they did you an injustice. See what I'm saying? And the fact is, in order for you to get to the appeal court, they had to have done you something wrong. You had to sue them for it. They have to rule against you, and then you have to appeal the ruling. So the sequence of events is that you have to survive the first-hand encounter with the police officer. So that Terry versus Ohio, Terry had to be mistreated by police officers. Then Terry had to survive that, get out of jail, sue the police department, sue the state of Ohio, and get a ruling in his favor in the Supreme Court for Terry versus Ohio to be utilized as a type of case law, West law, Black's law, that stops individuals from continuing to be mistreated in the same fashion, the same way. You understand? So when you tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm actually ratifying the fact that I do. And you still haven't answered any of the questions about your knowledge of, I mean, I understand that you know some stuff about how to keep yourself out of trouble. So I'm not saying that you don't know enough to survive. And I'm not going to say that I know more than you do, because I know different knowledge than what you know, because I'm not in Ohio. I know different knowledge than what you know. So I'm not going to say that you're completely unknowledgeable, but I am going to say that your lack of ability to discredit my knowledge of law is far recognized at this point. And he says TikTok is suing the U.S. government. That don't make it Supreme Court. Well, okay, so TikTok cannot sue the U.S. government on a state level, sir. And a federal level would be Supreme Court. So what other court operates on a federal level? Anybody who knows that, please jump in and let me know which courts operate on a federal level. Because you have county court, civil circuit court, civil court, criminal court, appellate court, federal court, which is Supreme Court. And typically, most things that happen on a federal level is happening in a Supreme Court. When you appeal from the civil court that you were in or the criminal court that you were in into a higher tier appellate court, and you appeal your way up to federal court, which is Supreme Court. So I think you're imagining Washington, D.C., which is the House and the Senate. And I'm only speculating this. I'm not actually putting words in your mouth. I'm speculating that you're thinking about the Supreme Court being the House and the Senate, where Congress votes on this. That's not it. That's not it. That's not where Supreme Court is. Supreme Court, you have a Supreme Court in every state, in most jurisdictions, most counties in your city and state. And there is, you go to court Monday, because today's Saturday, go to court Monday. You have a criminal division, you have a civil division, and you have a Supreme Court division. And you have a middle district division, which is going to be in a separate building. And then you're going to have that Supreme Court that might be in the same building as a criminal law, depending on your city and state. But there is a Supreme Court in your city and state. There isn't just the one Supreme Court in Washington. Max says that when he steps into a room, he feels like a straight up Sigma. Hey, you should. So, back to my main discussion, because we were sitting over here talking about what makes a woman of value after we talked about Michelle Obama and Michelle Obama's. But by all means, though, Joe, if you got some more to say, go ahead and put it into the comment section. Max is rapping in the comment section right now, so he's it looks like he's putting the entire song up here, but no cap, as long as it's not he's gonna ditty on everyone. Wow. All right, so self-confidence, that was one of the things. I got like 3 pages left of information that I did research on before today's show. I really appreciate your input, though, Joe. Make sure that you like and subscribe. We got some more shows that's coming up, and I really like your opinion, Joe. I really like your opinions. I don't have to agree with what you say in order for me to like what you say. And you might think that that's contradictory, but do you need a roar in the courtroom? You need order in the courtroom. You need a little bit of decorum in the courtroom, but that's pretty much it. I need to be paid in the courtroom. Otherwise, I'm not going to want to be there unless I'm getting paid after the fact or some kind of way I did something I wasn't supposed to do and I became a defendant. But yeah. So self-confidence. Men like a woman that has a reasonable understanding of her own individual worth. So she has a high self-esteem. We find that a little reasonably attractive. Now, one of the issues that we have with our mistake as men is we give women undeserving compliments more often than they need to. And the reason why I say it's undeserving compliments is because you're supposed to dress appropriately on a regular basis. Just because we're lusting after the girl because of her scantily clad outfit, we should not tell her that she looks that she looks good today because she's dressing like a 304. That she looks. We should not define cute as an OnlyFans model. Okay, we need to really change that. Hey, good luck on your knee surgery tomorrow. You shouldn't be on that skateboard since you got that surgery. Don't think I didn't see that. I know I was looking at it. You don't have to post it 35 times to spam the thing about your knee surgery. You just got to let me take a breath. I'll put your comments up there when it's important. Max wants me to tell y'all that Max is having knee surgery. Matt Bricko mode. He's having knee surgery. So he wants you guys to pray for him and make sure that he comes out of there with both of his legs intact. Oh. You see how jokes go backfiring on you, bro? Now everybody thinks that they're about to cut your leg off. No, Fireball, you don't necessarily need Aurora, but you need order and justice. Well, you need order. You're not necessarily going to get justice, or at least you might not feel like there's justice in the courtroom. Now, when it comes down to women with self-esteem issues, we find that more often than not, the women have a concern with self-esteem, low self-esteem. And we experience this when women, they fish for compliments. They put on overly attractive outfits, and then they want men to compliment them. They ask you if they look bad in this outfit. They're not asking you for critical thinking or any type of They're not. They're not. I just seen that comment, Max. That definitely distracted me, bro. I am not even gonna respond to that comment. But what was it? What was I saying? Oh yeah. So when they ask you if they look attractive in that outfit, they're not asking for constructive criticism. Because if you don't look appropriate in the outfit, a man can't tell a woman to take that outfit on and put on a different outfit that is appropriate. If a woman cares about what her man thinks about how she dresses, instead of her just asking if she looks good so that he can tell her that she always looks beautiful, to false feed confidence. The fact is that if he thinks that that outfit is a little bit too tight, it's too revealing, it's too short, it's too high up, it's exposing too much of her physique, that he selects certain outfits that have her looking a little bit more appropriate, a little bit more conservative. You know, the fact is that when he runs through that, women don't like hearing that, but they like to advertise the way they look for to be lusted by other men, even though they're with a man. But that's just to keep their options open. And while women may not agree with that or admit that or recognize that, the fact is that that's typically the case. And you notice, and that's one of the reasons why I started talking about Michelle Obama, because you notice that you have never seen that woman in shorts too short, tops too low, belly button exposed. You know, you don't see her, you know, dirty dancing on social media or raves or, you know, standing upside down doing keg stands or, you know, nothing to that effect. Nothing degrading do you see this woman do. And that's one of the reasons why we started talking about Michelle Obama today. And you're asking me what the court says about having a low taper fade. Well, the low the low taper fade, your haircut style is not going to be an issue in the court. The court wants you to have closed-toed shoes. The court is going to want you to have most courts used to want you to have pants on, but now courts are becoming more lax and they're allowing you to go to court with shorts on and short sleeve shirts. But you used to dress like church when you went to court with long pants, slacks, and appropriately dressed, basically. Not the skirts that are too tight or anything like that, because they're not supposed to be trying to entice the judge with your attire. But dress casual has changed. No, Max. I'm not. I'm not going over the rap that's in your comment. I left your rap in the comments, so they're able to see the rap in your comments. In the comments, so they could just scroll up and see the rap in the comments. So we want to have our women that have confidence. So you want to be able to know that you are attractive, so that you don't have to keep asking me if I think you look beautiful. Because if you didn't look beautiful to me, I wouldn't be with you. You know, because first things first is appearance. Second thing second is attitude. But your attitude and your behavior overrules your appearance, because you could be overly attractive and have a very, very bad attitude and you not be worth the time of a man, because men don't like to be mistreated. But if you do have a positive attitude, looks come slightly before attitudes. But when it comes down to acceptance and keeping a woman, your attitude is going to weigh heavily over your looks, because you could be less attractive and more cooperative and be more acceptive to a man. But the man is only going to approach you when you are more attractive than not. So looks come before attitude, because your looks brings the man over there, and then your attitude gets the man to stay there. We're looking for emotional stability. So the women that are able to maintain their composure, and maintaining your composure, meaning that you're not lashing out and talking over the man and telling the man what you're not going to do. Being able to handle challenges positively is valued by men, which means that the woman is going to have to accept the challenge. And the challenge is perform the task that the man has laid down. And then you be able to be valued for being relied on by the man. So let me segue into some of these comments. Can the Supreme Court force everyone? No, the Supreme Court can't force the American people to do anything. The Supreme Court can well, hold on. Let me change my statement. They cannot force you to do anything to yourself. They can force you to not have access to certain resources, and they can force you to pay high premiums to gain access to certain resources, and they can outlaw certain actions and activities that you would do in order to reduce the fact that that type of activity is happening in the country. But they can't force you to do, because you can choose not to abide by the laws that are made. But then if you don't abide by the laws that are made, and you are seen not abiding by those laws by either somebody who is there to force you to do it, which is a law enforcement officer, or Karen, which is somebody who's going to rat on you for not doing it, then you're going to be in a situation where now you have to answer to the judges, and you're not even going to be in a Supreme Court judge at first. You're going to be in a criminal court with a judge, that you're going to be answering to that judge as to why you're doing something that you are aware of is a law that you're not supposed to do. Just keep in mind of that. Men do like a woman that takes care of her appearance. Men often appreciate women who take pride in their physical appearance, when these days men are preferring more natural women. So when we say that we like it when you take care of your appearance, we like you to be clean with clean clothes on. We like you to be respectable with yourself. We're not really saying that you're taking care of your appearance by having those 12-inch fake fingernails with diamond studs on them and eyelashes that are 6 feet long that look like giant fans on your eyeballs, and $20,000 worth of makeup on your face, and hair going down your back that got cut off of a horse's behind and glued to your scalp. We're not saying that that's taking care of yourself. We're saying that you're keeping yourself with reasonably clean clothes on. You're not allowing yourself to wear too many rags unless you're doing something that's going to cause yourself to get dirty. That you carry yourself with self-respect, so you don't have your stomach hanging over your belt buckle. You don't have the crack of your behind hanging out of the back of your pants like a plumber. You don't have the string riding all the way up above your belly button over the top of your clothes so that people can know what color your underwear are. The stuff like that. So leading to women having standards, women having clear boundaries and expectations for how she wants to be treated is respected by men. But that also means that, while a woman can set certain standards and boundaries for herself, I strongly recommend that those same women need to understand that men have non-negotiable expectations for behavior, which means the way you carry yourself in the presence of that man and the way you carry yourself representing that man when you're not in the presence of that man is expected to be followed by that woman. The same way the woman has her own standards and her own boundaries, because I'm not going to say that a man needs to set boundaries. A man shouldn't have any limits towards his woman. He should have expectations that she's going to follow, the same way your boss has expectations on a job that he expects you to follow. And if you don't follow that, then you get fired. That's how that works. So with that being said, we're in a position where, it should not be a requirement for a man to submit to a woman to show that he values that woman, because that's not valuing her. That is relinquishing his authority to her. It's two different things. And a lot of women in this country in the United States believe that a man should submit to a woman, but they want the man to lead the woman. You can't have the boss submit to the employees, but you want the boss to pay the employees for doing the work that the boss wants them to do. It doesn't work out that way. You can't expect the country to submit to its people, but you want the country to take charge and lead the people to salvation. It doesn't work that way. You can't put somebody in the place of a leader and expect them to follow the demands of the followers, because then who's the leader? Now you can lead from the rear when you say, hey, I want us to end up over there. Doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we end up over there. So if you want to go the long way, you can go the long way, as long as we end up over there. The fact is that we're not looking at the difference between the old school women that used to lead from the rear, where those women were balancing the books for the man. They were giving the men advice. They were the men. Because think about this. In the olden days, a king wasn't the smartest man in the kingdom. A king had a court. The same way in modern times, the men can take advice from their women. A king had a court full of wise men that were the king's advisors. So all of these, the council for the king would each have a specialty, and they would each report to the king, and then the king would be able to make an executive decision. Likewise, nowadays, in modern times, where a man was to be the decision maker, the women were to bring the ideas and their opinions and expectations towards the man, and then the man decides which ones make sense and which ones don't make sense. But we also have the scenarios where men used to, back in the day, because bills were paid during the day and the man worked during the day, or if he's sleeping during the day while bills need to be paid and he's awake at night, he used to bring his check home and give it to his wife, and his wife used to take care of the bills while he was gone. The wife used to balance the budget, make sure the kids was taken care of, make sure everybody was fed, and if there wasn't enough money going around, she did not get her hair and nails done and buy new outfits. But in modern times, in 2024, if a man was to give a woman $1,000, she would spend it. Rarely would she save it. Good Lord knows that it's like, what, 10%, 5%, 1% that might invest it. If she buys stuff, she might buy something for her man every now and again. But if you give her $1,000, she's not going to come back a couple days or a week or a month later and give him $1,100. That you don't see. One of the reasons why, no matter how successful women are, you find that more often than not, a man retains more finances in his bank account and hoards more resources than women do. So it's just the choices that women make, not because women are in any way, shape, or form worse than men, because they have some very successful women that can invest in Wall Street and very successful women that are able to invest in a big business. It's just that what we have right now is the quantity of women that are working to the success of their relationships is not as high as it used to be, which is why breakups are happening more often than not. The longest relationships are 2 years to 2 years and 9 months. Divorce is starting to skyrocket more so than normal. 70 to 90% of women are leaving their men because they're unsatisfied with the scenario. 10 to 30% of men are leaving their women because they don't like the way the men are being treated by the women. But nothing is changing in our society. Dating has become hard. Women can't find a man because they don't respect the men, but they want a man to respect her. The women are having troubles finding a man that's not looking for a woman that's half her age. And by all means, it just got brought to my attention that the new wave for men to gauge the appropriate age for a woman is to find a woman half of his age plus 7. I was like, wait, hold on. Because the math has to add up now, because brothers are not trying to go to jail these days. We ain't trying to end up between R. Kelly and Diddy. So it did the math. And the formula, half of the man's age plus 7, is a good match from what I hear. Now, I got to do some research on this to figure it out. But just based off of the algorithm, a man that's 40 years old is more compatible to a woman that's 27, because half of his age is 20 plus 7 years. A man that's 25, that's not going to work because, well, let's see. 25, half of his age would be 14 and a half plus 7, which would make the woman 21 and a half. Does work. Get any younger than that, and you're kind of really tapering on, not so much running that course. But think about this, though. 50-year-old man, half of his age plus 7. 50-year-old man, half of his age is 25 plus 7 would be 32. So when the women that are in their 20s saying, oh, I wouldn't date a man that's 15, 20 years older than me. I already showed you guys that that's not the truth. But now you're looking at the women that are in their 30s and 40s. If a 27-year-old is a better fit for a 41-year-old and you're 40, you're basically telling me that a woman that's almost 13 years younger than you is probably going to beat you out for the man that you want because she's more cooperative. So we have to start looking at the value of the women and how does a woman show her value. And that's one of the bridges we haven't crossed yet. Because you have to find out what the man needs. Because notice, I don't go off of personal desires, because you got people that want like tigers and monkeys and all this other weird stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like find out what the man's basic needs are and what his aspirations are, which means that if you don't ask, you have to listen, because men are declarative. Women are cryptic. So you have to ask her the right riddle for her to tell you the answer. Or if you ask her a direct question, you have to listen to a riddle for you to guess the answer. And if you guess right, you win. She's happy. But if you guess wrong, she's mad. But men are direct. And since men are direct, if you ask or if you're available, he will tell you. You don't like being told. That's something that women have to work on, because men are an open book. They are a walking manual of how to maintain them. So if you listen to your man the way you listen to your smart car, when it's time to service your man, you know, just do it. The same way when it's time to service your Tesla, you know, you just do it. Thing is, if you invest in your man like a stock option, then your man can pay you dividends on a regular basis. But if you're not willing to invest in your man, eventually the well will run dry. Eventually the money will run out. And when the money runs out, you're going to leave him and go and find another man that's still willing to put out money. And that does not make you beneficial to that man, which means that you're not an asset. That's one of the reasons why earlier in the show we were using Michelle Obama as an example, because she was an asset to her husband. It's hard to find women of value that are an asset to their husband, where in public, where we can say, okay, she's an asset. I'm not saying that they're not out there. I'm just saying that it's hard to find some examples, but she was one of those examples. So showing inner strength, that was one of the things that men actually admire in women, being able to confront issues when necessary and stand up for oneself is admirable, unless you are challenging your boyfriend or your husband on a regular basis. Being able to bring it to your husband's attention after the fact that you think that certain scenarios should be addressed in a different ways is fine. Having conversations in the comfort of your own home instead of having these conversations in public is approved. Making a scene in public, not approved. Making a scene in front of company just because they're at your house, not approved. Embarrassing your boyfriend or your husband in front of other people, not approved. So when appropriate and necessary. So as long as he's not mistreating you directly on purpose, like being able to work this out, that is what we're discussing right now. And then continuous self-improvement. This is one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about on the show today, because a growth mindset and desire to better oneself is always going to be attractive to a man of high value. And one of the things that women have to think about and women have to understand is that if you claim that you are a 10, you're claiming that you're perfect. Having personal self-esteem is fine. You want to say that you are the best you that you could be at this time. But there is room for growth and there is room for improvement, which also means that if nobody is perfect, you just meet all of the expectations of the current standard that's set for you. If the standards are raised, then you're not meeting those standards. You're not perfect. You just meet the expectations of the current you meet the current expectations. So since nobody's perfect, you can't be a 10. If you say that you're a 10 out of 10, you're saying there's nothing about you that needs to change. If you're saying that there's nothing about you that needs to change, then you need to be able to recognize that you're not willing to grow. You're not willing to improve. You're not willing to make yourself better. And that is unattractive to men. Thinking, oh, having a big ego, that's attractive to men. It's not. Egotistical women are the most attractive women that we have in our country. Being modestly able to understand that, I might be like a 7 or 8, probably a 9. But I know if I could think of at least one flaw, I'm not a 10. If I could think of at least one characteristics, one trait, one behavior pattern that other people may have claimed that they didn't like, even if I didn't agree with them, then I'm not a 10. If you can think about that, then you understand you're not a 10, because you're not a 10 based on how you feel about yourself. You're a 10 based on how you are gauged by your society, which means that The average society could look at me and they could say that I'm a 7 or an 8. Fair enough. They may look at my wealth and say that I might be a 9 or a 10 based on their expectations. Fair enough. Some might want to condescendingly say that I'm a 4 or 5. Doesn't matter. My track record speaks for itself. But I'm not going to be gauged based on just my physical appearance. I'm going to be gauged on my attitude, my ability to put her agenda in line with my own, if not in front of it, and my financial status, the resources that I have access to. You know, these are the things that I would be judged by. So we have to understand that while having self-esteem, while believing in yourself is important, I'm going to believe in you too. So in a relationship, the husband is going to believe in his girlfriend or his wife, but she's got to believe in herself to succeed. And while he's got to believe in her and she's got to believe in her, she's also got to believe in him. And an active listener. This is something that we have lost over time. Active listening, where giving full attention and showing genuine interest in conversation. This makes men feel valued by their women, which is something that women don't do as much anymore. A lot of the times they talk about how men's passions are stupid or childish or immature in some way, and they mock the men for it. And that's not healthy. That's going to cause your man to shut down and not communicate with you. Then you're going to be in a situation where you're going to ask, well, why didn't you say something? Well, because I don't want the negative fallout from when I do tell you. And I didn't want it to be thrown up in my face in a later conversation. These are situations that men try to avoid. It's called self-preservation. The more that you nurture your man, the more that your man confides in you. The more you beat down your man, self-preservation tactics, the less stuff he tells you, the less stuff he allows you to be involved in, the less attention that he gives you, until you ultimately come second place to his Xbox and his PlayStation. Just saying, ladies, y'all got to think about this. Nurturing and empathetic qualities. Society often values these traits in women, which can be appreciated by men. The nurturing and empathetic qualities are going to be the catering to the man qualities that a lot of women feel is oppressive. But really, instinctively, that is a trait that makes you attractive. Nonverbal communication. When a woman has confident body language and composure, where she can communicate value without words. These are the things that men look for. And these are the things that is missing in the active dating pool in some of the women that are not girlfriend worthy, not wife worthy. And if you ladies was to stop and think, whether it's yourself or somebody that you know that is not meeting these expectations, y'all might need to sit down and have y'all a little powwow, do y'all a little intervention, and start trying to change the way you do things. Because men in modern times are... Okay, Julian, I'm going to need you to translate that. Because in modern times, men are starting to focus on their careers. They're focusing on their success so that they can make themselves high-valued men. And they're going to make it there if they set their 20-year plan now in their 18 to 20-year-old area. They'll make it in their 40s. If they started in their late 20s, early 30s, they're going to make it in their 50s, early 60s. And I've already said this on the show before, that between 18 and I want to say 45, a man is not valuable by a woman because he's not financially stable until he gets to his mid-40s, mid-50s. So that means that those mid-40, mid-50-year-old men, if you're 45 years old, half of your age is going to be what, 22 and a half? Add 7 to that, you're looking at 28 and a half, almost 29 years old. So a 45-year-old man dating a 29-year-old, she can still have 5 kids for him between 30 and 38, depending on how early she hits menopause. So these are the things that we talk about. But a 27-year-old with no kids is going to be more beneficial to a man than a 27-year-old with 3 kids. But the older women get, the more children they're likely to have. So the older a man gets, the older the women get, and the older the women get, the more women that have 1 to 5 kids, and the more women with 1 to 5 kids, the less women willing to have more kids after those 1 to 5 kids, which means that a man that is looking to find a woman to reproduce is not going to be interested in women that's already crossed over menopause, and less likely to be interested in women that already have too many children to handle. Now, men that are not really interested in starting their own legacy may have no problem with adopting a woman that's already got kids. So it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it is a conflict of interest and a red flag to a man that wants to have his own children. So women just have to really think about that when they're making their choices. So a man has to build himself up to the expectations of a woman. A woman just has to stop doing stuff so that she can maintain the expectations of a man, because the men are looking for the woman at the starting point. Women are looking for men at the finish line. The more miles that the woman puts on this race, the further away from a man's expectations she goes. The more miles that a man puts on this race, the closer he gets to her expectations. So for a woman to meet the expectations of a man, she has to keep that low body count, keep that modesty, keep that accommodating, nurturing, and empathetic behavior, and not become selfish and overbearing, dictating, and oppressive. We have to change our mentality. A woman's focus is on the success of her family, not on her own individual success. Her husband is supposed to focus on her individual success along with his success, but she's supposed to be focusing on the success of her family. If she's not focusing on the success of her family, she's not valuable to a relationship. She's not valuable to a marriage. That's anybody. The same way, if a man who has all of these resources is not willing to do anything for his girlfriend or his wife, he's not going to be considered valuable to her. She's got his bills are getting paid. He's partying like there's no tomorrow. She's not getting nothing. She's not benefiting from this engagement at all. That's not going to work out. So, in conclusion, I took y'all down a long rabbit hole, but I did tell y'all a couple days ago. I told you once we get on this Michelle Obama topic, I was going to give y'all a few hours. And with Michelle Obama's support playing a crucial role in Barack Obama's rise to power, her background, values, and political persona created a strong foundation for his campaign, and her influence helped him shape his public image. And Michelle's advocacy work, commitment to social justice, and ability to inspire and motivate people made her an invaluable asset to Barack's campaign. And that made her a valuable woman to him. And that was the reason why we had started the conversation talking about her, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to say I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts about women such as Michelle Obama that influenced successful men the way she influenced Barack Obama's campaign. I want you guys to make sure that you comment in the comment section, like and subscribe. Make sure that you keep track of some of the other shows that we're going to have coming up, because we're going to be adding to the list of shows later tonight. So you're going to see at least 5 or 7 more shows get posted up outside of tomorrow's members only show. That is going to be, want to say 10 Eastern. No, yeah. 10 Eastern, 9 Central, and 6 Pacific. Should be about the time we're going to kick that show off tomorrow. So make sure that you guys follow along. And if you're interested in learning more about the power of a successful man that is being supported by a successful woman, make sure that you guys add your questions in below. We can also go back and check out Clinton's rise to power if you like, where we can start talking about how Hillary Clinton benefited Bill Clinton when Bill Clinton was growing watermelon and smoking weed. I just want y'all to know that these women, actually successful men, are successful not just because of the network that they have, but because of the women that they have that help them become successful. A self-made man is not self-made. A self-made man typically has a woman in his corner that's aiding him in his success. So I actually really want women to go back to the mindset of promoting and boosting up the men that they choose, so that those women can become successful by proxy. Because at the end of the day, since you are as good as the man that you chose, you need to choose a man with higher potential so that you can get him to his peak potential, which allows you to be entitled to his entire estate because you made that estate. But the mindset of women these days that want the finished product, they don't want to build it. They want to get it after it's done. You ladies are going to have to earn your spot, because if he has to make himself successful in order for him to be worth your time, you have to show him that you deserve to get what he has spent his whole life building. because you didn't spend your whole life building it with him. You showed up after it was built. If he was Noah and he built the ark and he spent 10, 15 years of his life building this ark so that you can ride on this ark, you need to show him that you're worthy to get on the boat, because otherwise you're going to get left behind. So that's all I have to say for you guys today. I really appreciate y'all coming to like us, this and that. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. I want to one more time throw out a shout out for Max Opposer, Reese. I want to give out a special shout out again for Reese Martinez from yesterday, Light Blue. I really appreciate you guys. Liberty Twitcher, Omni81, and Red Void, for you guys showing us the most support on the podcast. We really appreciate you guys. Also, make sure that you guys throw us a little something as appreciation for what we do for you, the knowledge that we provide, the entertainment that we provide, and help out with the podcast in any way so that we're able to give you that 4K high definition, because T-Mobile fiber is expensive as Jesus. You think that the hotspot is expensive. Fiber is going to be twice as much, but we're going to be getting 2,000 megabytes per second instead of our original 350 megabytes per second. So, faster speeds means better quality video, having the ability to get more research done and being able to provide you guys with better quality content. You also can check out our merchandise stores, so make sure that you go and take a look at that, because those merchandise stores, you can get the memorabilia from us. They have some gifts and trinkets like necklaces and pendants, throw pillows, fanny packs, stuff for the dogs, stuff for the babies, form-fitting shirts for the women, baggy shirts for the women. You've got sweaters and hoodies. It's cold outside right now. It's real cold outside. Winter came real quick for us. So they got some hoodies on the podcast. You can take some of those out. We have the black ones, teal ones, pink ones, whichever ones you guys want. And if you join the membership, depending on the attire that you're trying to pick up, membership provides you with discounts based on the tier of the membership that you decide to grab. So take a look at those things. And also, one of the things I'm going to tell y'all before I walk out of here is that, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Again, fellas, I really appreciate you guys coming to the podcast. Thank you for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.